Hey guys, you're listening to the Kids Inc. podcast. I am your host, Susan Yeager, and this is episode 10, part 2. In this episode, we continue our conversation with Brian Poth. Brian was a dancer on Kids Incorporated seasons 4 and 5, and we are strolling down memory lane talking about what he remembers from his time on the show. We have some special surprises in this one, and I think you're really going to like it. And if you are listening on the podcast channels, which first of all, thank you for listening, but take a minute when you have a chance and find us on YouTube, because you're not going to want to miss seeing this episode. That's all I'm going to say right now. Let me kick it on back to the conversation. I will be with you guys at the end again, and enjoy.
Yeah. I want to talk to you about, I asked Eris from the YouTube channel to isolate Never Say Never for me. And I will insert it here. I'm not good enough to play it while we're talking. So I will insert a clip of this. You have one of those, the show must go on moments. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
Well, I'll show the clip before everybody knows what's going on, and then you tell us what happened.
For my heart, still looking at the brand new start. Never say never. Never such a long, long time. Never say never. Might wanna change our mind. Never say never. No, baby, don't change our mind. Never say never. We just might wanna change our mind. Never say never.
Okay. So at some point so there are confetti cannons throughout the songs. Usually the confetti cannons are for the very last performance of the day, because they don't want to clean it back up. And so you don't get a confetti cannon unless they've gotten all their shots done. So if you didn't hear the confetti cannon at the end of the song after your 8-hour work day or whatever, however long we worked that day, you were going to do that song again. So we'd probably done that song a couple times, and my friends from junior high were there that day because we were going to do something. We were going to go out, I think, to Alfie's probably, and that's a whole other podcast, right?
Yeah.
But so the performance was happening. We were performing on stage. I was dancing next to Shallon. I thought that Shallon had hit me with an instrument in my arm, because when the confetti cannon went off, I felt like this really, really it was a sharp pain in my arm. And I thought, oh, that was rude, because we have these guitars and, musical instruments, and we're constantly spinning around and we're sharing this really small space. So I remember kind of giving her a dirty look, why did you hit me with, and not getting any response. And then about a couple seconds later, we're done with the song and we raise our arms up to bow. And as I raise my arms up, I feel a gush of warmness on my back. And so I did the bow and I looked over at my shoulder, and my shoulder is just covered in blood. My entire shirt is soaked. And I think we bowed once, and I think they are on the mic, Doreen's bow again, kids. We bow a couple times, and then they stop the music and everybody's cheering and stuff. And I screamed I don't remember what happened at that point, except that some adult ran up, grabbed me from the stage and ran off with me through the green room, and then basically took me to the emergency room. So what had happened? Did you want to interject? Were you there that day?
No, you told me about it later, but no,
So what happened was that there were work lights above the stage that we would use instead of all the hot, like bright lights that we used when we were shooting. And they had not been covered with like a safety net. So there were fluorescent tubes that were up, really high in the ceiling. And so over time, the confetti cannons push all this pressure. And so one day it just caught it in the right way and the tubes fell out of the light. And you can see it. Jimmy Cuomo showed me a slow motion tape one time. You can see the light just kind of tumbles like this. And if this is the light, it's tumbling like this. And as it comes right about to hit my head, I turn my head like this and it hits me right in the shoulder and explodes. So when a fluorescent light hits something, it explodes. So we didn't know what had caused the injury until later, but there was glass everywhere in my hair. I had almost, if it had exploded in my eye, I probably would have been, blinded by it. But my head was turned like this right when it hit my shoulder. And so, I went to the hospital. I got stitches. I went home. I missed maybe like a day of rehearsal. Maybe I like sat in on it. I didn't dance because I had stitches in my shoulder. But I did get a very nice leather jacket from Fred Siegel, which was like the most expensive place you could buy clothes for kids at the time. Yeah. And it was the nicest. I still have it. I still have it.
That was your, you have it? Go get it.
I do. It'll take me a second to get it, but I could show it to you.
If you want to, yeah.
I mean, it's okay. It's a leather jacket, but it's super nice. I still have it. It used to still fit. It doesn't fit anymore.
Oh, yeah, that's okay. That was their I'm sorry gift or?
And I think I got some cookies too. And then I thought like I couldn't eat the cookies because I was on a diet. So I was like, why do you get the fat kid cookies if I can't eat the cookies?
That's awful. That is awful. But gosh, I didn't know it was that bad. But like I will reinsert it now so everyone can see the last. What's funny to me is when I watch it back now, you see the confetti come out and you see the confetti on the floor. But then they cut obviously to a take that was before the confetti because there's no confetti. And then at the end, you can tell, like now that that's how it works. The kids at the end are just like, oh, what's our ending? Like, because the confetti hadn't gone off. So they knew this was not the take that was going to be used. So everybody at the end is just kind of, what's the ending? So yeah.
Yeah. And I want to say it might even go to credits faster or something. It seems a little bit rushed. Or weird or
now that you know the story. Was that the only time you got hurt on set? Like that to me, that is like one of the only accidents I can remember that required medical attention.
I mean, I don't think I ever got hurt on set before or since then. That was pretty like scary. Probably the only time I've ever had stitches, Yeah.
You're like, I got a wound. Yeah, I can talk about it. Yeah.
What's really weird is that I mean, this is like super personal, weird information, but I had a birthmark on that same shoulder that was just a couple inches away from it. And as a kid, I was so self-conscious that I had this birthmark because kids would make fun of it, right? And so after the accident, I had a birthmark and a scar like right near each other.
Oh my gosh.
It was a couple years, I think, after we moved back and I had finished Kids Incorporated. I asked like my parents, like they were like, what do you want for your birthday? And I was like, I just want this like birthmark removed, because I had seen like, oh, okay, well, this scar healed pretty good. Nobody
Get
really
rid of this thing.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, can we like take this thing off? So yeah, so now I have 2 scars on my shoulder, but yeah, only one is from Kids Incorporated. The other is
The other
vanity.
one was from birth. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what else do you? I'm trying to think of anything like from the 4th season. Do you have a favorite episode? Was when movies were more important because you got to do more? Like, what else do you remember or stands out as highlights other than being wounded?
Yeah, brutally, yeah. You know, when movies was that was a good one. I remember the songs. I don't know if I had a favorite episode. I just loved our outfits. Like I loved the performance numbers. I certainly liked whenever I was like featured a little bit more, because I always wanted to do more. I mean, in fact, I think there were times when, some of the dancers thought it might be a good idea to be backup singers. And so we would get in trouble for that. We were not supposed to be lip syncing to the songs. So
have you met Brian Friedman?
Yeah, so we would do a little bit of background singing occasionally and kind of get in trouble. But I really remember I Want to Dance with Somebody. Mm-hmm. I remember anytime I got to be paired up with Stacey, I was like, yes, because I had such a crush on Stacey Ferguson. I just was like, I just wanted to be Stacey Ferguson, really. But I remember being paired up in like a matching sweatsuit. Like we both were dressed in yellow. And I thought, oh, well, this is fate. Like they've seen something in me that reminds them of Stacey. And they've really figured this out. Like, I'm important too.
Yes.
Yeah. But no, I just, it was such a weird experience because we were kept so separate from each other that, the dancers worked all week. And you talked about this in your first episode or how like the rehearsals ran and all that stuff. And we danced all week long. And then our responsibility on production number rehearsal days was to teach the dance routines to the principal actors. So it wasn't, we were dancers, but we were also like, almost like kind of like not stunt doubles, but we were also doubling for the main character. So oftentimes we weren't learning just our part, we were learning our part and a principal's part. And then when we would get with them, we would sort of show them where their blocking was and teach them that stuff. So, and
the first year you guys were physically far away during rehearsals, and because that studio was so small. Yeah,
we were in the same church on Highland that they auditioned for that 2nd season replacement of Kids Incorporated.
Wow.
Is it 2nd season or 3rd season?
Ryan came in on the 2nd.
Yeah. So that was where they held open auditions, was at that the Methodist church on Highland, and yeah, we just rehearsed in a gym of a church. But
5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and. All right, Brian, you have to go back more. That's it. Again.
You want to go on?
It depends how good it looks. I know it's up to you guys. Go on. 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, 3. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. You're anticipating 2, Brian. 1, 2, 3, 4, and. Isn't there a plie there?
Yeah.
That's it, and. But when you guys get going, you just push the beat like crazy. You can. Shout, throw it on the back. Here we go. That's it. Your arms don't go back until you go down on it. That's it. I'll have you do it one time. Here we go. 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, that is a mess. Okay, where do you look when we plie? Let's count out 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, 7. Brian, if that had been up to September, you would have never been down. Okay?
My feet are wrapping up and I'm doing
No matter what you think you've done, you'll find it's not enough. No matter who you think you know, you won't get through. It's a given LA law. Someone's faster on the draw. No matter where you hide, I'm coming after you. Shake down, break down, take down. Everybody wants to see the crowd alive. Break down, take down, you're busted. Let down, you're gone, honey. Just about the time you think that it's alright. Break down, take down, you're busted.
But I don't know. I would, it would be mostly tied to songs. Like my favorite episode, the storylines were like, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was all about the songs.
Yeah.
Moosey says when he hears the songs now, he goes right back to where he was and everything. Do you do that with the songs like from those
Oh,
seasons?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially like stuff that you just don't hear anymore, like Banana Ram. Like we did songs that just were not appropriate for kids.
Yeah.
They were super popular and everybody knew the words to them, but I'm thinking of like Tears for Fears songs and stuff like that. Like, it just wasn't kids music, but everything was kids music back then. So
Right.
yeah, I just remember when we worked on the show, I felt like they were doing more, like, I feel like they had gotten Janet Jackson's catalog. Was that the year that they got?
The year that we worked on it, they were doing everything Janet Jackson.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they had gotten some sort of permission to do their music.
Yeah.
And I talked to Tommy years later about why they can't bring Kids Inc. back and why it's, never going to be in syndication again. And, the rules around like ownership over this music that we performed, they were so different back then. I mean, artists could just allow you to perform it or, give you limited access to it or something. But because there's just, it was every top 10 hit there was for a decade.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
who even knows? You couldn't afford to pay for the rights now to even show them. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Which is a bummer.
Yeah. No, you guys did like Bon Jovi and it would just be impossible. And that last year, they did a lot of Janet Jackson and it's very sad. It's very sad.
Like if
no, they did it. They did this time. They did You Want This, which I still have a problem with. I'm like, they had those kids out there and like fish. I'm like, wait a minute, come on now. This is not Kids Incorporated. Yeah. 5th season. Okay, so you made it through the 4th season. and you said something I'd never heard of before. You tried to audition for the 5th season as a singer. Now, did they let you audition, or were they just like, you're a dancer, sorry? Like, what was that going into the 5th?
God, I mean, it was it was weird. It was definitely awkward, like, because I feel like they were very kind to me and they would let me audition, and
Right.
they would just be like, great job, and I just think, like, I didn't really think it through. Like, if you hire, look, I was not the right kid for the part, right?
Right.
Either season. And I didn't know that, I was just like, I'm talented. Why, I'll try this. And but if they had cast me as a singer, then they have to cast a dancer, right? And
Right.
I think it's much harder to find a dancer than it is probably a singer or somebody or a child actor who you could dub the voiceover for. But yeah, I definitely auditioned as a singer. I may have even auditioned as a singer the year I was we were let go, like a bunch of us were let go. I just was relentless. I had this dream of just, like, being the first dancer turned singer on Kids
Right.
Incorporated.
Right. That would have been awesome. I wish they would have done something. We talked with Tommy about the dancers. Was it important to put them as guest stars and things like that and speaking parts? And I wish they would have done more of that your seasons. They kind of gotten away from that, I think, with the exception.
Well, I can now, knowing the business, I know why they did that. It's much easier. This is an assumption, but if I was the producer, it's much easier to budget a season when you know how much somebody's going to get paid. The dancers cost this much a week, the guest stars cost this much. And the second you start to move those things around, or you give another person an opportunity, like a line or 2 lines, there were word limits to how many things you could say before they had to pay you more.
Right.
And so the budgets were tight anyway. So it probably would just, I'm sure they would have loved to given us a lot more to do,
right.
But there's laws around it, and the budgets are really tight. And so you can't lip sync, or you can't, because then you move into a different category of performer. And so I think it was just stuff you didn't understand as a kid.
Right.
And nobody explained to you. They're not like, well, if you do this, we have to pay you more. It was just like,
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Yeah.
Stop singing, Brian.
Okay, guys, I hope you are loving this episode. I love that Brian was able to share some behind the scenes rehearsal footage with us. I love that Eris from YouTube was able to isolate some songs for us, and I could throw that in there. So thank you, Brian. Thank you, Pat, for videoing all that 30 years ago. Thank you, Eris, for isolating these songs to make this episode one of the coolest yet, I think. They've all been great, but there's something very cool about being able to share all this with you guys. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up and then, hopefully get to work very soon on episode 11. There is still more to talk about with Brian. I am so excited. So be good to others, be good to yourself, and may the joy, excitement, hope, and magic that was Kids Incorporated find a way into your life every day. See you next time. Hey guys, we would love for you to check us out on social media. Tell us what you like, what you don't like, what you want to see more of. You can find us at facebook.com/Kids Inc. Podcast, twitter.com/Kids Inc. Podcast, and instagram.com/Kids Inc. Podcast. Hope to see you there.
No matter what you think you've done, you'll find it's not enough. No matter who you think you know, you won't get through.
You beat me this time, but I'll be back.